Parts 1 to 3 have taken us on a journey full of surprises and danger, but the story is far from over. Stay tuned for parts 4 to 6 to uncover even deeper secrets and witness life or death decisions that will change everything.
The one who set the trap. The air in the pit grew heavier, like a nightmare that wouldn't let them wake up. The group stood still in the darkness, their eyes fixed on the strange drawings on the stone walls, the cryptic symbols they had just discovered. Each image, each mark on the wall, seemed like a puzzle they couldn't solve. Despite their efforts to find a way out, everything continued to defy them, as if the walls themselves were telling them they had come too late, gone too deep into a trap they couldn't escape. "This isn't a normal place," Min whispered, his gaze fixed on a particularly strange drawing. "There's something that wants us to understand, but at the same time doesn't want us to go too far." A chill crept up Min's spine as he spoke, a feeling that even he, usually calm and composed, couldn't ignore. Lan, her voice trembling, stepped closer to Min. "Min, are these signs from an ancient civilization? We're not the first ones to be here, are we?" Min nodded, his eyes still focused on the drawing on the wall. "Yes, these markings, they weren't drawn by ordinary people. They were made by an intelligence from another time, a civilization that has disappeared. But the more important question is, who made them and why?" An invisible fear slowly began to creep into their minds. They all felt it, though no one spoke. It was as if there was an unseen gaze upon them, watching their every move, their every action. The story they had thought they were the protagonists in had now become a confrontation with something greater, a force they couldn't yet understand. They hadn't just stepped into a trap. They had entered a world of mysteries that even those who created it had long abandoned. This reality became clearer when Min discovered an important detail in the drawing. A short line of text, written in ancient symbols, was barely visible, faded with time, but with the faint light, Min could make out part of it. "Those who find it will be chosen." The brief line carried weight, like a warning and a promise that something was waiting for them, something that would decide their fate. Min tried to think quickly. Was this some cruel joke set up by those who had created the trap? Or was this truly a message from those who had vanished in this very place? The group fell silent, no one daring to speak. Each of them felt their hearts heavy with a growing sense of dread. They had no longer just stumbled upon a trap. They had entered a world where the very air seemed to pulse with ancient secrets, a world designed to keep intruders out. Then something even stranger happened. As Min and Lan continued to examine the markings, they noticed a thin wire, almost invisible, stretched across the ground. Min froze, but before he could warn the others, Lan, without realizing it, stepped on it. A loud click echoed through the chamber, followed by the sound of something massive shifting, and the walls seemed to tremble. The ground beneath their feet rumbled. Min turned to look at his friends, a deep sense of fear creeping into his eyes. "We're not just exploring a forest anymore. We're in a trap," he said, his voice cold and serious. At that moment, they realized that everything had changed. This wasn't an innocent adventure. It was a carefully constructed trap, set long before their arrival, and now they were its prisoners. The strange sounds didn't stop. A mechanism somewhere deep in the earth seemed to be stirring, the clanking noises growing louder. The walls, once silent, now whispered of something ancient, something watching them. With every sound, they felt it, an invisible force tightening its grip on them. "We're not just searching for mysteries of nature anymore. We're walking into something darker, and we might not be able to walk back out." Fear set in. The ground beneath their feet was no longer solid. Each step forward felt like a mistake. The once carefree journey into the wilderness had morphed into a terrifying nightmare. Each discovery only deepened the mystery, and with every new sign it became clear they were trapped in a world that was not meant to be discovered. Lan's voice broke the silence, barely audible. "What are we supposed to do now? We can't just sit here forever." The desperation was clear in her voice. Every one of them could feel the suffocating pressure growing. This was no longer about exploring. It was about surviving. They had entered a place where time seemed to stand still, where every move they made would bring them closer to a truth they were not ready to face. The walls, the floor, the very air around them, all were part of a design too complex to understand. And the deeper they went, the more they realized that getting out was not going to be easy. They had walked too far, and there was no turning back. The only way forward was into the heart of the mystery, into the very depths of the trap that had been waiting for them.
The escape and the final decision. Time seemed to freeze in the pit. The cracks in the stone walls continued to widen, as if the trap was growing larger, ready to consume everything. The group stood still in the darkness, feeling the presence of things they couldn't explain, as if they were lurking in the air around them. Min, Lan, and the others were no longer the carefree adventurers they had once been. Now they were warriors, fighting not just to survive, but to find a way out of this deadly pit. Min stood at the front, his gaze sharp. He knew time was running out. They had to act. But the issue wasn't just escaping immediately, it was facing the death that lay ahead. He turned to Lan, his closest friend, her eyes reflecting a despair that couldn't be hidden, but also a determination not to give up. "We can't just stand here," Min said, his voice almost choking. "I know there's not much time left, but we have to find a way out." Lan nodded and said nothing more. She knew Min was right. Every second that passed felt like it was draining the life out of them. The air in the pit was becoming thick and suffocating. They had faced fear before, but now they were up against a reality they couldn't escape. This was a fight for their lives. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from deep within the earth. Not the familiar sound of shifting mechanisms, but the sound of a massive door opening. The cracks in the ground began to widen, and immediately a cold gust of air swept into the space. A faint light pierced through the gap, illuminating strange symbols on the stone walls that they had not seen before. "What's that?" Lan exclaimed, her eyes confused but also hopeful. Maybe that's the way out. Min quickly stepped forward, watching the light with intense focus. He felt as though he was standing at a critical juncture, a turning point where one wrong move could end everything. He turned back to the group, his eyes full of resolve. It could be the only way out, but if we go through, we won't be able to turn back. The group fell silent. Each of them understood the truth in Min's words. Every choice they had now was a dangerous one, but standing still meant certain death. They couldn't live trapped in this dark hole. But would they have the strength to face what lay ahead? They stepped forward, and as they did, the cold air enveloped them once again. The door that had opened was not a simple way out. It was a path filled with new dangers, new trials. Every step brought them closer to the truth, and yet farther from what they knew. The way grew clearer, but as they ventured deeper, they realized that the pit was not just a physical trap, it was a test of survival. Min stepped forward, holding the handle, his heart pounding in his chest. With a final, resolute decision, he opened the door, and what awaited them on the other side would change everything. When the light poured in, it felt like a new beginning. They had escaped the trap, but they had lost something along the way, something precious. They had made it through, but the price was high. Sacrifice, choices, and the realization that nothing would ever be the same again. The Mark of the Death Trap. As the group stepped out of the dark pit, the sunlight seemed distant and dim, as if they had just emerged from another world. Although they stood up and continued on, every step felt heavy, as if they were not only carrying the exhaustion of their bodies, but also a piece of their soul that had been buried in the trap they had just survived. They had survived, but the price they paid was something they could never forget. Ming looked back at the once vibrant forest, which now seemed different in his eyes. It was no longer a place of mystery and discovery. All that remained was a bleak, faded picture where they had not only faced danger, but also uncovered secrets so deep that no human should ever touch. The friends were no longer facing just a physical trap. They had entered a world of mysteries, a system built to keep intruders out. "We made it, but I don't know if we can ever forget what we've been through," Lan said softly, her voice barely a whisper, as if speaking to herself rather than anyone around her. The memories of the dark pit, the strange marks on the walls, the feeling of being watched, still haunted her. Every step, every sound around them made her flinch. That trap had left an indelible mark on her. Ming lifted his gaze again, his eyes becoming sharp again. "We made it, but one thing I know, what we've been through will always be a mark in each of us." They kept walking, but it was as if they couldn't leave everything behind. The feeling of fear still lingered in each of their hearts. Though they had escaped, no one could shake the feeling that the trap was still following them, an invisible, profound mark that could never be erased. "Do you think we can forget?" Lan asked, her voice barely audible. "We might have made it out, but the mark of that trap will stay with us forever." Ming nodded, his expression grim. "We survived, but that experience, it's something we'll carry with us no matter where we go. It will always be part of us." They kept walking, but there was no escaping the truth. They had crossed into a realm where every step forward was a reminder of what they had faced. The light that bathed them seemed dim in comparison to the darkness they had left behind. Though they had found their way out, they would never truly escape the shadows that haunted them. Lan stopped for a moment, looking ahead, her face set with determination. "We survived, but the mark of this trap will forever be a lesson for all of us. It will never leave us." The group had escaped the death trap, but in each of them, that trap still existed, an indelible mark that could never be erased. And they knew that every step they took in their remaining lives would forever carry the memory of the danger they had overcome, along with the unanswered question: had they truly escaped the trap, or had they simply entered a larger one they couldn't yet recognize?